How's it going, everybody? My name is Jared Scott. Today I want to talk about the collective unconscious. Myths and symbols are strikingly similar across the world. If you're like me, then you've always wondered why. And the reason is because we have a collective unconscious. So today I want to talk about that. I want to talk about this idea. I want to talk about archetypes that are within the unconscious. And we have to start with psychologist Sigmund Freud because he kind of introduced this idea that we are not controlled by outside forces such as fate, but we are motivated and controlled by the inner workings of our minds, especially the unconscious mind. So everybody has an unconscious mind, but what he thought was maybe there's a collective unconscious mind that we all share. So Carl Jung was his protege, and he took this idea further, or deeper, you might want to say, and he developed the elements of what makes up the unconscious. And he was fascinated by, the same thing we're asking questions about right now. Like, why is everything so similar across the world when they had no idea about each other a long time ago and they're telling the same stories? He thought that it must have to do with something that's larger than the individual human experience. So for some people that's God, and some people they look inside themselves, like Jung. He decided that, the existence of these symbols and myths that are all so similar, it has to be stored in the human psyche. And maybe there's this thing called the collective memory or collective unconscious that all human beings share. So this is what Jung decided to call it, the collective unconscious, this collective memory, myths and symbols that are passed down from generation to generation. They're inherited memories and stories that emerge within the psyche, and they form into symbols that he calls archetypes. Okay, so an archetype is like an ancient memory of your ancestors. It's like a template that you use. It's within your psyche that we use unconsciously to make sense of reality. Now you have your own individual experiences, that's the unconscious, but there's a collective one that are full of not your experiences, the experiences of your grandparents, great-great-grandparents, and these inherited emotional patterns, they help us make meaning of life. And it would seem like we do this instinctively, but Jung says it's actually not instincts. It's actually a part of our unconscious, collective unconscious mind. And there are archetypes, like symbols, like, when you watch a movie, you see these type of symbols all the time because they're in human expression. They're in stories like art, literature, drama, stuff like that. So if you go to the movies and you watch your favorite movie, you're going to see an archetype right away. So I'll give you a few examples. One of them would be like the wise old man. It's in so many stories. Dumbledore, right? He's a great example of that. The goddess, right? The fairy godmother. And one of the most common ones of all is just superheroes in general. The hero, every movie has a hero. That's the archetype, that's the symbol, that's the persona. The persona actually is its own archetype. It's described by Jung. He recognized this early on in his life that, he would only share certain parts of his personality with the outside world. And then he recognized that everybody else does the same thing. He noted human beings, we're just dividing our personalities into components, and we're only sharing certain components according to our environments and our situations. So the self that we present to the world, our public image, our public symbol, that's the archetype. And he calls it the persona. So the persona is what you want people to see. That's your public image. But there's also the other side, the dark side, right? That's the part that you hide from the world. He calls it the shadow. Everybody has a shadow. In the Bible, it was the devil. It was the snake within. In literature, it's Dr. Jekyll's Mr. Hyde. Get it, Mr. Hyde? The shadow, the part that you hide, the bad side. That's the side that we don't show it, but we project it onto others. And we think it's negative, but it's not all negative. Sometimes it's just what we suppress because it's unacceptable in a particular situation. But most of the time, if you learn how to face the shadow, get to know the shadow, you could even use the shadow. But the most important archetype of all, and this is what I want to get to before it's too long of a video, is the true self. In the Bible, that was Christ. It's the part of you that tries to harmonize all other aspects into a unified whole self. And according to Jung, this is the whole point of life, to become enlightened and achieve self-realization. And the only way to do that is to strive to find your true self. When you fully realize that this archetype is the source of wisdom and truth, then you can get connected to it. And that's like the spiritual side of you. And you can't do this just automatically. It doesn't happen overnight. It has to be consciously sought after. So in other words, to end this video in a positive light, the meaning of life is to find the truth that lives within you. Well, that's all I have for today. So if you learned something and you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the little bell icon so that way you get notifications when I post. And don't forget, put a comment down below and tell me what type of topics you want me to cover on this channel. And last of all, if you want to see me live or you want to book me for a school event or an office speech or anything like that, then the link for that is down below in the description. And with that being said, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.